Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday. We have another great career that we're going to start exploring today. I'm Mandy, I'm your Executive Director of Health Professions Week. Happy to have all of you here with us today. A little bit on scheduling. So just like normal, we're going to start our webinar off this morning with a great video from our partners at the American Association of Colleges of Nursing Colleges. Thrilled to have them. They've been a partner with us for a long time as well. We, just like all of our careers, have a dedicated playlist for some videos that explain a little bit about careers in nursing. Today's video comes from one of their member schools and colleges, the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley, their RN BSN program. They've got some great students. They're going to talk a little bit about their pathway. And look, I know I advertised earlier today that Nursing Inspired was going to jump on with us for some questions and answers after the video. I'm hoping that Fallon is able to, she had patients this morning. I'm hoping she's able to join us. We will roll the video. I'm going to see if Fallon makes it, and then we will go from there. So here's the video, guys.
Can you tell me about why you chose this profession, the nursing profession, because you have a past experience before? My name is Melissa. I am also a student nurse here at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. I chose this profession because during high school, I was a senior and I had clinicals at a hospital. I was able to witness a C-section. I thought it was pretty amazing to see babies being born. And I knew I wanted to get there one day, and I knew nursing would give me the morals that would bring better patient interaction, and I knew nursing would get me there one day. That's why I chose it. So while you've been doing the clinicals, have you had a case study that you've been most proud of? I have. Actually, when I arrived to the hospital today, the nurse told me that my patient wasn't eating very well, and she did not have much of an appetite. So I realized, okay, I have a challenge. What am I going to do? I went in there with my friend Rubina, and we decided, okay, we're going to talk to the patient. We're going to make her comfortable. We're going to do whatever we can to get her to eat her food. So when she got her food, we had already, performed oral care, hygiene, all of that. Washed her face, got her ready for the morning, woke her up, helped her wake up. And when her plate arrived, we were able to give her food without difficulty. Yes, the nurse who had taken care of her during the early morning and night, he said that she didn't like taking her medication, but she always refused because in applesauce it tastes like really gross. But when we gave it to her, she gladly consumed the medication because of applesauce. So it was a really great moment for her because like everyone had difficulty, but when we administered it, she ate it. What is your favorite part about this profession?
My favorite part about this profession is the real personal interaction that I have with something that even some of the closest friends are invited to be there. Example is those are really special moments. Here we are invited to be part.
Hello, I'm here today.
All right. So again, these videos, they're really awesome to watch. You can find them on our YouTube channel. And again, all you need to do is look for the Colleges of Nursing playlist. I'm really super excited though. Fallon just jumped on, so I'm gonna see if I can't have help. I'm gonna help her get her camera on and Fallon, if you can't find it, there's a little button, looks just like a camera. It's right by where your microphone is, right below your microphone. So if you're able to jump on, I know I can hear you. There she?
You okay? Okay. Great.
I'm so excited. I know you're so busy, but for our audience, I'm thrilled to introduce to you. You know her as Nursing Inspired on Instagram. So thank you for taking just a couple of minutes to join us this morning. Welcome.
Yes, no problem. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the welcome.
I know you're busy. I know you're in between patients. I promised you like a 5-minute interview, so let's get right into it for the students that are hanging out with us today.
Yes.
Tell us, Fallon, why did you choose nursing? How were you called to this profession?
Great question. You know, early on, I was exposed to nursing, but I didn't realize that was my calling yet. I had the unfortunate event of my father being hospitalized and later dying when I was age 6. But I saw nurses working while he was there in the hospital. I saw them, you know, in and out when he actually was coding, which I didn't know that's what that was at the time. And then they comforted us as my mom received the news from the doctor to let her know that he had passed. Myself and my brother at the time, I was 6 and he was 3. And then, you know, later on in life, my mom's mom, my grandmother, she actually had developed Alzheimer's, and so she had to come live with us. And so then we started to have home care nurses come to visit our home, and we got, again, I was again exposed to nurses and not only seeing how they care for my grandmother, but they made sure to talk to us about the different things that we can do to help my grandmother, no matter if it was feeding, bathing, repositioning, and things like that. But I still hadn't caught the bug yet. And then so my mom actually went to nursing school and when I was away at college and I would come back home and I would hear her and her friends studying from the top of the steps and I'd be listening down to them in the dining room. And I'm like, my God, I honestly really did not know that nurses had to know so much in depth, you know, that they did and that we do now. But I still hadn't caught the bug yet because throughout childhood, my mom told my brother and I, look, if you're going to do something, you're either going to be an engineer or a doctor. And so I didn't know what an engineer was going to did. And so I said, well, I'll go and be a doctor. And I started working towards that path, and I knew for sure that I wanted to work in obstetrics and gynecology, for instance, but I hadn't really, you know, done things the way in a fashion and an order I think that would have led me, you know, fully down that path. But I still did an internship when I was in college and undergrad, and I did I worked at a doctor's office, and he had a Future Doctors, Future Leaders program. And one day he was absent from the health center, and a nurse practitioner was working there. And she was going in and seeing patients, checking records, signing labs. And I was like, what is this that you do? And she's like, I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm like, well, what's that? I heard of nurses, but I never heard of nurse practitioner. She told me what it was. She even let me look in somebody's ear with her. And I was sold ever since. I knew then that I would be a women's health nurse practitioner. And so that was my start.
That is so cool. Okay, so then, Fallon, can you explain to us then kind of what that educational pathway is? Because you have advanced training beyond what people would normally think of, you know, the training for nurses as maybe an RN or a BSN, but you've gone beyond to become a nurse practitioner. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, certainly. So, you know, I mean, of course, to become a nurse practitioner, you still do need to become a nurse first. And so, you know, that's in various ways between becoming a diploma nurse, a licensed practical nurse, or a licensed vocational nurse, which is LVN, making your way through associate's degree level, ADN, BSN, for instance, which is bachelor's level, bachelor's of science in nursing, rather. Then you can go on to either the MSN or even now the DNP, which is the Master's of Science in Nursing, MSN for nurse practitioner, but a lot of programs now are requiring you to have a DNP. But those of us who have an MSN, such as myself, are pretty much grandfathered in. And so we don't necessarily have to go back and obtain our doctorate, even though that is on my goal list. That, you know, is not the case. But yes, for myself, I actually, since I caught the bug in the middle of undergrad, I was getting my bachelor's in biology. And so I went ahead and completed that. And then the first school that I was able to get acceptance from, I just went with it. And so that was an associate's degree program. And once I did that, I actually did what's considered a bridge program, a RN to MSN program, where you can actually bridge your associate's degree to your master's degree if you have a degree in a related field. So I actually did the RN to MSN program, combined a dual program with my women's health nurse practitioner program at the same time. So it took about 4 years.
It just speaks volumes, right, about the many ways that any student who's listening right now, and I don't care if you're a junior sitting in high school and you haven't started down this path, or if you're a sophomore sitting in a biology class right now listening to us and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong career field, but it doesn't matter, because there's a path to get you to where you want to be. And I think that's fantastic.
Yes.
Fallon, my next question is, okay, you are focused on women's health, and clearly from, just chatting with you, that's always been something that you've been interested in, but talk to me about all of the patients that nurses treat and other maybe areas of specialty that nurses can find themselves.
Certainly. And so, well, actually, I currently work in clinical research, actually, separately. And women's health nurse practitioner. I've actually taken just a pause from that for a quick moment. But so right now I'm actually doing clinical research. But, nurses can see patients all throughout a spectrum in healthcare. So there's primary healthcare or preventative care, all the way through secondary and tertiary healthcare. And so it kind of depends on the environment that you'd like to see yourself in and the kind of the wellness or illness state that patients are in. And so some want to work with, those when it comes to preventative care a lot of times. There are nurses who, really want to work with those who need additional assistance with the disease conditions and health conditions that they have. And then some nurses prefer to work with those who are maybe in either an end of life stage or maybe hospice or some type of terminal illness type of stages as well, or just really advanced disease stages that are not necessarily hospice, but they are advanced disease processes. So that's kind of, where nurses can, the types of patients in which nurses can work in as far as patients' wellness and illness spectrum go. But of course, you could also choose to say, as a nurse, I really want to work with children, or I really want to work with adults, or I really want to work with older adults, So you have pediatrics, adult care, you have geriatrics. You can do single gender with women's health, for instance, or you can do men's health, for instance, as well, or even, those from the LGBTQIA spectrum as well. So you can actually specialize just in working in that environment. Nursing is very diverse. I really can say that. Not only can you say the different environments that I like to work in, or the different types of patients, but the specialties as well. There's nearly 100 specialties in nursing.
Sure. Now, you mentioned research. I think most everybody assumes that you find nurses at hospitals. What about other places where you see nurses working? What other kind of facilities do you find nurses?
Great question. Yes, because that is the first thing that people's mind goes to. And it's almost like in nursing, if they don't see you work in a hospital, you're not a nurse. But that is absolutely not the case. Nurses work, first of all, nurses can work as entrepreneurs. So I'm actually an entrepreneur outside of my work, my 9 to 5. You can work in home care and go to patients' homes, for instance. You can work in an insurance company. You can work remotely from home, depending on what the position is, and maybe doing triaging and care coordination, for instance. You can work in private clinics, doctor's offices. You can actually work in community health, which is where I work in. I work in community health, specifically in what's called a federally qualified health center, or FQHC, and that's working with the underserved. You can work in ambulatory care type places, schools, government, and education. So many different avenues. And I just have to, just for a second, just say about the education piece, we need more nurse educators. We need more nurse educators, because without the nurse educators, the nursing pipeline is kind of backed up and slowed. And so in order for us to address the nursing shortage, we need a lot more nursing instructors. So I am urging you, high school students, college students, future nurses, to please, when you are going to school, to obtain that extra bit of education so that you can serve in nursing education, even if it's as a clinical instructor or a preceptor or something. We need more nurse educators. Okay.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because yeah, I was going to mention that that is absolutely a critical component to the future of nursing. Absolutely. Just for a moment, Fallon, I want you to address your Nursing Inspired. This is a passion project for you, that you want to make sure that students of color and, you know, that anybody feels like this is a career that is welcoming of them. Speak to me about, you know, representation mattering in nursing.
Thank you so much. Yes, representation truly matters. You know, a lot of times for people who are going into a specific career field, it's hard to be what you don't see. And so that's kind of a challenge in itself. And so I want to make sure that I am standing present as a person who identifies as African-American female here in the United States, as other African-American young women who are looking to come into nursing. But however, I also want to make sure that I'm here for the young men as well, and even the older men. So it doesn't matter the age, really. It's just seeing someone who has gone through it and who has been through some of the things that you've been through. But the representation is really important, just as we know that a lot of the chronic health conditions that are out there specifically are affecting those that are from Black and brown communities. And so there's something called racial congruence, or even racial concordance, meaning that the provider is the same race or ethnicity or background as the patient. And so it's actually been seen in research and data that there are better patient outcomes when you have a provider that looks like you, because in healthcare, we really strive a lot and talk about having cultural competence, which is really an understanding of a lot of different varieties of cultures. However, it really goes beyond having the understanding. You really need to be able to, you know, have a further, you know, maybe empathy, I guess, if I will, and just better understanding. And sometimes that comes from having that same lived experience. And so with that, since there is a nursing shortage, with Nursing Inspired, I want to make sure that I'm not only exposing Black youth and adults to nursing, but also helping them to have competitive applications to nursing school, and then learn to prepare, plan, and pay for nursing school. That's so important as well, because you can't just know how to get into a particular program and then you're all set. You also need to make sure your finances are well set up and you have a plan A, B, C, and D so that you can not only get in that program, but stay in that program.
Yeah, quick plug for the Super Savvy Money Game. If you haven't done it yet, go get your game board so you can make your plan for your educational pathway.
Yes.
One final shout out for those of you that are joining us live. If you have a question for Fallon, please drop it in the chat or drop it in the question box right now. If you are watching this on demand, email me. I will get your question to Fallon, or tag Fallon on Instagram and she will answer your question. Nursing Inspired, HPW. I'm going to ask my final question unless we get one in the chat box in the next minute or two. If you were a high school student sitting in, you know, your high school biology class right now, and you wanted to learn more about the field of nursing, how's the best way to start, you know, that process of understanding what the profession is, learning more?
Excellent question. So, you know, some different ways in which you can kind of become further exposed and also get involved is things like joining HOSA, for instance, and that is an organization specifically geared for high school students that are interested in going into nursing. Also talking to your school nurse.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yes, awesome. You know, also speaking to your school nurse, for instance, and seeing, you know, what that nurse's, you know, background and experience has been, and what their thoughts are, you know, and everything when it comes to getting into nursing. You can also, depending on the high school, if you haven't yet entered high school, there are career-specific high schools that focus on healthcare, which encompasses even CNA, phlebotomy, and prepares you for nursing as well. Volunteerism is really big. So if you can start volunteering at your local hospital, do that. Actually, just last Friday, one of my clients, my students that I work with, she actually just got accepted in her volunteer position at a local hospital in a very, very large health system that covers not only my state, but neighboring state. And so that's very exciting to kind of have started that nursing pipeline to get her started. And that volunteer piece, I have to say, is really important because as you are there, you are gaining medical terminology, you are just getting the feel of the hospital environment, addressing patients, potentially, depending on what the situation is, maybe even touching patients, because that's sometimes a position of, anxiety sometimes for students. It's like, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to this patient. How am I supposed to address them? But those experiences with the volunteerism alone can do it, because sometimes it's really hard to shadow a nurse because there's so many other things with HIPAA and other organizational paperwork and red tape. So, but if you volunteer, that's more of an official process than shadowing. There are summer nursing camps as well that occur every year all throughout the United States. So I encourage students to look in their own particular state and then look nationally as well. Some are free, some have a cost to them. It kind of depends. And then some of the other things that I'll mention are professional nursing conferences, for instance, and meetings that occur. So if you, as a student, you can look at your State Board of Nursing website, and it may show the different nursing organizations in your state. And if you see one of interest, you can reach out and see if you can potentially attend as a guest, just to their meeting, just to get exposed and be around nurses in that specific area. And then also if there's conferences. So for instance, this year, for the very first time, the Chicago Nurse Expo is coming up in August 13th. I'm actually on the planning committee for that. So that's coming up. You can come and network with and meet and hear from nurses and hear all about nursing, for instance. Also, I am a part of the National Black Nurses Association as well. And the Chicago chapter is actually the host chapter. We have 115 chapters of the National Black Nurses throughout the United States, Africa, and the Caribbean. And so our chapter, which is pretty amazing, is hosting this year's conference. This is actually the 50th conference. And at the conference, there's going to be a youth institute. So there's an opportunity just for youth to come and tour schools of nursing and hear from nursing, and so there's lots of opportunities out there. And of course, my last plug is Nursing Inspired. So if you are a Black youth or adult who wants to learn to prepare, plan, and pay for nursing school, come check me out. I have an online school with courses. I do one-on-one coaching, and I have organizational tools as well. So that is, lots of many different ways that you can learn more about nursing, for sure. In a personal, with, interacting with people. But of course, you can do your research too on, the ANA, the American Nurses Association website, or you also with Health Professions Week and Explore Health Careers, because I actually talk about you all in one of my classes that I teach. Things like the National Student Nurses Association, the NCSBN, official sources, of organizations related to nursing that are official. And also if you have something that says .gov, .gov.org.
Yeah, I'm here for you need to make sure that if you're doing your online research that you're finding valid forms of information direct from sources that you trust and are credible. So yes, the American Nursing Association, the colleges of nursing, some of these organizations, your state organization, that's critical that you don't get into a situation where you're not getting good information.
Yes.
Fallon, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time in between your patients. I know you're so busy. But thank you for spending just a little bit of time with us. I hope you have all enjoyed hearing direct from Nursing Inspired. Again, if you're watching this in the on-demand version, drop us an email if you have a question about careers in nursing, and we will get those answered. All right, everybody, we'll see. Tomorrow is Thursday. We've got all kinds of stuff. We've got our social justice panel. Got all kinds of stuff going on tomorrow. So we'll see everyone then. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.